First, power on the black box underneath the Instron drop tower machine. Next, power on the data acquisition unit. And then next, power on the computer. Once the computer is powered up, you want to open the Impulse Data Acquisition program to interface with the Instron drop tower. In here you can change the units, go to controller, controller properties, and in here you can input the units. Since we've already made a method, we'll just use that method file and we don't have to set the units here. Before we begin testing, first we need to calibrate the load cell and measure the drop weight. Calibrate the load cell, you need to go to controller, controller properties, go to the drop weight, and then once this screen pops up, you'll need to enable the frame if this green light's not on, which it isn't. The frame is enabled now. To calibrate the load cell, you need to first hold arm and then press fire to reset the machine. And then once that happens, you can come over here and click calibrate. And it takes it about 15 seconds or so to calibrate. Okay, now it's calibrated. Once it's calibrated, just hit apply and OK. Now to measure the weight of the drop weight, we first have to move the crosshead down to pick up the weight. And you'll just hold this down. And while it's moving down, you can actually hold it down all the way to the top of the drop weight. It can sense where the drop weight is and it won't slam into it. Okay, now it's picked up the weight. Now to measure the drop weight, we first have to move it a little bit up off the stoppers on the bottom so it can weigh it. That should be plenty right there. And now to calibrate or weigh the drop weight, you just come over here, click on the 5 Newton button, and now you can see the drop weight has been updated. Now that everything has been calibrated, you need to put the specimen in the machine. You'll have to open the door, and the specimen needs to be mounted to where the notch is facing downward and the tup or the this little piece here that makes contact or impacts the specimen has to be about in line right over the notch. So you want to try to center it as best you can here. Once you have it about centered, you can close the door. And now you want to center or move the tup to where it's almost right above that notch. So you can move it down. And you want to get the tup a little closer, almost flush with the specimen. So you want to move it down some more. As you can see, that's pretty close, but you want to get it as close as you can. You want to be sure not to make contact with the specimen because you don't want to put any stress on it yet. So as you can see, we're right above it. There's a little bit of space in between the tup and the specimen, so that's perfect. And now you want to set the flag for velocity measurement. You come over here on the back side. This is a photo sensor that can sense when this little flag here passes through it, and it knows the distance between the two so it can calculate the impact velocity. And you want to set this to where the flag is about 1/16 of an inch under the sensor. As you can see, it's sticking out a little bit here, and that should be about perfect. You want it sticking out just a little bit so the sensor will actually capture the velocity right before impact instead of immediately after. Now you can mount that by tightening this screw and setting the flag. Now that the flag is set, we want to set our 0 position. And here you just press this, and now you got the green light at 0. You can come over here and check that the height is now 0. Once the drop weight has returned to the drop height, you can start the test. To start the test, go to Run, Impact Test. We'll choose the method that we've already predetermined and choose a place to save the sample. You can do sample labeling here. If the data acquisition unit was actually working, we would be able to put in the specimen dimensions and all, but since we're going to have to use some old data, we will not put those dimensions in. here you'll use the drop height defined in your test method and hit next. And then here it's waiting for me to hit the fire button. To actually drop the drop weight and the top onto the specimen, you have to hold arm until you hear that beep for a few seconds, and then hit fire while simultaneously holding arm. And as you can see, we've got an error message, and that's just due to the data acquisition unit not working. But now, once the test is done, you can open the door, remove your sample, and if you've removed your sample, you can now examine the fracture surface. You're now ready to shut everything down. You'll just do it in a reverse order. So you can come here, close the program, and now you can shut down the computer. After that, you can shut down the data acquisition unit. And next, shut down the Instron drop tower here.